impact. Your health matters. Only on WION World is One. Because nothing matters more.
Hello and welcome. You're tuned into WION World is One. This is Race to Power, and tonight power is being challenged on different fronts. First, the alliance that once appeared unshakable is now showing signs of strain. Benjamin Netanyahu's military decisions are increasingly testing Donald Trump's patience. Is this a disagreement or the beginning of a much bigger political fallout? We get you the answers. And on to India. In West Bengal, a political storm. A rebel faction within the Trinamool Congress claims it has taken control of the party. Faces once considered among Mamata Banerjee's closest confidants have now removed her as the chief. What will be the fate of TMC? Tonight, we ask, when power is contested, who holds the cards? Let's get started. When US and Israel declared war on Iran on 28th of February, Benjamin Netanyahu's office released a picture of him with a book titled Allies at War on his desk. Nearly 4 months later, Netanyahu's war in Lebanon has become Trump's biggest problem. Iran's so-called axis of resistance remains ideologically aligned and intact, but at the same time, signs of strain are becoming more visible between Benjamin Netanyahu and Donald Trump. Hours after Israeli Prime Minister refused to withdraw troops from Lebanon, US President said he gets problems solved real fast, including with Netanyahu.
The Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said his forces are not leaving Lebanon. That is a sticking point.
Who did he tell that to you?
He said it publicly in Israel.
Well, we're going to take a look at it.
Well, what would you do to make sure that he doesn't?
Well, I'm not going to tell you what I'm going to do, but it gets solved. I'm a problem solver. I get problems solved real fast, including with Bibi.
Well, US and Iran are officially in a 60-day window to finalize a comprehensive peace deal. Israel will be weeks away from national elections when this window ends. After years of relentless war, Netanyahu will seek reflection and re-election with Hamas still in Gaza, Hezbollah still in Lebanon, and a strengthened Iranian government. Definitely, political stakes are high for Donald Trump as well. US is heading for midterm elections this November. It is also being seen as first referendum of Donald Trump's second presidential stint. Now, there is little support for Iran war within Donald Trump's MAGA support base as well. Failure to finalize a deal with Iran could add to this discontent. Geopolitical interest or political realities, there is a visible divergence between Trump and Netanyahu. Lebanon, it still remains at the center of this misalignment, and both sides are already working to address the issue. We also know that US Central Command has established a monitoring mechanism to provide real-time information about fighting in Lebanon to the White House. Israeli and Lebanese envoys have also returned to the negotiating table in Washington. Both sides have already held 4 rounds of talks since April, but failed to produce a durable ceasefire. Now, if we look into the situation in Lebanon, it remains extremely complex. Hezbollah demands Israeli withdrawal from Lebanon. Israel refuses to retreat, and Iran refuses final deal without end of war on all fronts. Well, so far, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has still insisted that without these two wars, the latest wars, Iran would have created and used nuclear weapons against Israel, but this comes in contradiction to what U.S. intelligence agencies or even the UN nuclear watchdog has assessed. As of now, the Israeli troops are still maintained in southern Lebanon, and Lebanon insists, even Iran insists, that there will be no deal and no conclusion without the troops off ground. Well, as of now, definitely Benjamin Netanyahu and US President Donald Trump seem to be at odds, with one contradicting the other to reach a conclusion that will ultimately settle the war in West Asia. To discuss more, joining me live right now is Heliet Badel, former director at Israel's National Security Council, joining us on the broadcast from Tel Aviv. Welcome to the broadcast, ma'am. We know that there are two men with contradicting opinions: Trump, the man with the peace deal; Netanyahu, the man with troops on the ground. Who do you think will blink first?
Not sure I completely agree with that framing. I think for sure there are definitely conflicting points between Netanyahu and Trump, between Israel and the United States at the moment. I don't think really there's a scenario in which Trump really stands behind something and Bibi Netanyahu stands up to him and refuses to acknowledge or accept a request from the United States. I think there's a bit more of a gray area here than depicted. In other words, I think that President Trump completely understands the security needs that require Israel to have some sort of control over the northern border, where its northern towns and villages are being directly targeted by anti-tank missiles, by drones, and of course, with the threat of an invasion, the way we have seen on October 7th, and we know that Hezbollah was planning for as well. So I believe they will find the formula to square out those differences.
Ms. Badel, if Trump understands the situation and the conundrum that Israel is in, what do you think is the ultimate way out, even with this divergence in opinions?
Well, I think the point to look at is the talks between Israel and Washington underway. I'm sorry, between Lebanon and Israel underway in Washington as we speak. Really as we speak right now, which have been a venue that I believe should have been pursued long ago. And I believe Prime Minister Netanyahu took too long in engaging in that venue. And I feel that if Israel and the government, the legitimate government of Lebanon, find formulations that they agree on to provide Israeli security while respecting Lebanon's security and sovereignty, if those formulations are found in Washington between Israel and the government of Lebanon, then a path forward can be struck as to how to resolve this on the issue of Lebanon, and especially if President Trump is careful to notice that Iran tends to manipulate this situation to its own benefit. So as long as those parameters are there, I think they will find a way forward, despite the fact that I acknowledge it's a very tense situation and a very new situation for Netanyahu and Trump to find themselves in.
Ms. Badel, it's also interesting that both the leaders are now staring at elections. Benjamin Netanyahu has the national elections lined up. Trump has the midterms. Do you think the ballot box will shape this wider regional war now?
I wonder about the U.S. part of this, because I'm I wonder how effective President Trump really is by this midterm election. I have no doubt that he wants to win it. He wants to win everything. That's his obviously his disposition, and of course, it's important to the Republican Party. I'm not completely sure if that really directs his decisions, as it is his last term and he has other goals that he might be focused on. Benjamin Netanyahu, I think, is highly affected by the upcoming election. He finds himself in a very difficult situation internally here in Israel, with a very wobbly base of support and coalition. Polls are looking very bad. If you're looking at the Israeli strategic situation at the moment, it does not look good despite some stellar military tactical achievements for the IDF, for the state of Israel. They have not been turned into the strong strategic outcomes we would have expected. And I think there's pretty wide acceptance of that in the public, which bodes badly for Benjamin Netanyahu. So I think he's far more affected by these electoral considerations than Donald Trump.
Thank you, Ms. Barrel, for your insights. It does look like, and we'll have to see that if the 60-day timeline will eventually be different than the previous failed negotiations. Thank you for your time. It's a pleasure having you here.
Thank you.
Well, on to Pakistan-occupied Kashmir now. It is on the boil, where anger is mounting against Pakistan Army and authorities at large. People are out on the streets demanding greater autonomy and removal of Pakistani forces.
जो इनके कहने पे फोर्सेस लगा के जो इन्हें सामने रख के हमें जो है वो डराना धमकाना चाहते हैं, हम उनसे कहना चाहते हैं.
Mass protests have gripped Pakistan-occupied Kashmir since last 2 weeks. More than 70,000 people have maintained a mass sit-in in Rawalakot, turning it into the epicenter of a movement against Pakistani control. The protests have seen significant participation of women and children. Earlier, school children as young as 10 gathered in a public square chanting slogans for freedom. Children held placards reading Pakistani forces out, we want basic rights. Hundreds of women marched through the streets calling for independence and accusing the Pakistani state of political as well as economic oppression. Now, Joint Awami Action Committee's deadline for Pakistani authorities, it ends today itself. They have vowed to organize march from Rawalakot to Muzaffarabad if their demands are not met. So the deadlock in negotiations between JAC and the Pakistani government, it has largely hinged upon the 12 reserved seats for migrants in the POJK assembly. These 12 seats are effectively used by the federal government in Islamabad to plant its loyalists in the POJK assembly, primarily to tilt the balance on crucial matters like water, electricity, and even Pakistan's army control over its land. In the past few weeks, Pakistan's government has clamped down heavily on the civilian movement organization. They have also imposed a ban on the organization. Pakistani government has also named JAAC as a terrorist organization. Remember, the ban came despite the fact that JAAC's charter containing 38 demands for POJK's future was passed in the State Assembly. Entire erstwhile state of Jammu and Kashmir, including Gilgit-Baltistan, is an integral part of India owing to its accession in 1947. Pakistan has illegally occupied the territory since independence, but the clock is ticking for Islamabad. If demands of economic freedom and administrative autonomy are not met, the protests could further swell despite threat of crackdown by Pakistan's military. On to India now. Trinamool Congress is witnessing an internal power struggle. TMC's rebel faction is now claiming complete control over the party. They have removed party's founder and most prominent leader, Mamata Banerjee, from the post of party chief, and the rebel faction has elected four-time MLA from Howrah and former Minister Arup Roy for the top post. A fresh National Working Committee has also been unveiled by the rebel faction of the TMC, featuring several leaders who were once considered close aides of Mamata Banerjee. The faction now plans to approach the Election Commission, even seeking recognition as the real Trinamool Congress and staking claim of the party's symbol. Now, the move marks a dramatic escalation in the battle for control of the party. Notably, the special session that endorsed the changes did not display any image of Mamata Banerjee on stage. This underscores the widening divide within the organization. Meanwhile, Mamata's loyalist camp has hit back sharply, issuing show-cause notices to several rebel camp leaders and even dismissing the exercise as illegitimate. Mamata's supporters maintain that the Trinamool Congress remains inseparable from its founder and insist that any attempt to alter the party's leadership structure violates its constitution. Meanwhile, TMC MP Mahua Moitra called out the situation and dubbed it as the theatre of the absurd.
अच्छा ये थिएटर ऑफ द अब्सर्ड बोलते हैं ना, थिएटर ऑफ द अब्सर्ड, इसको बोलते हैं थिएटर ऑफ द अब्सर्ड। जिस आदमी हमारा कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में ममता बनर्जी का पार्टी है, ममता बनर्जी का पार्टी है, ममता बनर्जी का सिंबल है, ममता बनर्जी के नाम और सिंबल में हर कोई एमएलए एमपी बना है। ममता बनर्जी तृणमूल कांग्रेस, शी इज द चेयरपर्सन। उसको बिना टोपी पहना हुआ अरूप रॉय को बनाइए, ठीक है, अब जाइए ना, आप कल वोट पे जाइए।
From Parliament to State Assembly, around 80 elected representatives have joined the mutiny. These include 58 MLAs and 20 Lok Sabha members. Additionally, 3 Rajya Sabha MPs have also resigned from their post as well as from the party. Now, the battle for the control of Bengal's principal opposition appears to have begun as both factions prepare for a legal and political showdown before the Election Commission. Now we go across to United Kingdom. The country is preparing for a 7th Prime Minister since Brexit. Political instability and revolving door of Prime Ministers has defined last decade of British politics. With Starmer's announcement of resignation, focus has now shifted to his potential replacement. So the debate is between coronation or contest. Andy Burnham has thrown his hat in the ring after winning by-elections from Makerfield, former Greater Manchester mayor who has earned a nickname, King of the North. He has now announced his candidature to replace Keir Starmer. According to UK media reports, some parliamentarians are encouraging Minister Darren Jones to contest for the post of Labour leader as well. However, chatter is growing within Labour circles about a possible coronation. A leadership contest would last for several weeks and can be bitterly divisive. Some favour smooth transition, while some, they prefer leadership contest for legitimate succession. So if Burnham secures victory unchallenged, then he is likely to become Prime Minister on either July 17 or 18, making him a 6th Prime Minister of the United Kingdom in last 10 years.
Something like this, I'm over the moon for Andy Burnham, but I think Keir Starmer didn't understand that he feels he had a mandate because they had such an overwhelming win at the last election. He just doesn't understand that actually the win wasn't him, it was about people voting anti-Tory.
Starmer's departure follows mounting pressure from within Labour Party after disappointing election performances, internal divisions and growing concerns over the party's ability to counter the rise of Reform UK. Starmer said he would remain in office until the Labour Party elects a new leader and Prime Minister. Well, according to polls, Andy Burnham remains the most popular Labour leader. Former UK Health Secretary Wes Streeting has also endorsed him. But leadership race would require him support from at least 81 of his fellow parliamentarians. Latin America's political landscape is changing fast. 12 countries are now governed by right-wing political parties. The latest example is Colombia, where voters have embraced a hardline conservative candidate. Trump-backed Abelardo de la Espriella has clinched a major victory in Colombia. He will be replacing incumbent left-wing President Gustavo Petro. From Atacama Desert to Guatemala, around a dozen countries are now ruled by conservative parties. Notable exceptions of Brazil and Mexico, where left-wing governments are in power. The trend also reflects a broader shift in public mood. During the early 2000s, left-wing governments known as the Pink Tide expanded social programs, raised wages, and helped lift millions out of poverty. At the same time, organized crime grew more powerful. For many voters, security has indeed now become the defining issue. Surveys even show 3 out of 4 Latin Americans believe that crime has increased over the past year, while millions report being personally affected. Right-wing political parties have capitalized on the issue, but external factors are also at play. US President Donald Trump has repeatedly attempted to influence political debates in Latin America, sometimes backing conservative candidates and warning against left-wing alternatives. Despite growing support for right-wing political parties, conservative leaders in Bolivia, Ecuador, and Chile are facing mounting pressure over economic troubles and resurgent crime. On to another South American country now as race to power heats up in Peru. Country's left-wing presidential candidate Roberto Sanchez has called for the annulment of overseas votes in the runoff election. This move comes as right-wing presidential candidate Keiko Fujimori inches closer to becoming Peru's first female president. With almost all the ballots counted, Fujimori held 50.11% of the vote versus Sanchez's 49.88%, and this is according to the National Office of Electoral Processes. Fujimori is ahead of Sanchez by just over 40,000 votes. As overseas votes largely favored Fujimori, Sanchez alleges administrative irregularities in the handling of the overseas vote, which represents around 300,000 ballots by the Electoral Authority. According to Sanchez, if votes cast abroad were excluded, he would hold a lead of around 25,000 votes over Fujimori.
They deny us and say this demonstration is illegal through a document, and they do not even allow the democratic expression of people who want to speak out and demand electoral justice, due process, and transparency.
As right-wing Fujimori appears on course to win Peru's presidential race, hundreds of Sanchez's supporters marched in Lima to protest alleged irregularities in the presidential election. Many of them even claimed that Sanchez had won the vote. This is Fujimori's fourth presidential bid since 2011, the right-wing presidential candidate who lost 3 previous runoffs. She says she is waiting calmly for the final result.
I believe new times are coming and there are new winds in Latin America, and that is very positive. I believe that in the countries going through electoral processes, citizens have shown a search for progress, for strengthening freedom and strengthening democracy.
While Peru's Fujimori herself is contesting tight presidential runoff, she did not shy away from congratulating Colombian President-elect Abelardo de la Espriella following his victory in Colombia's presidential runoff election. Well, Colombia's 2026 presidential runoff concluded on 21 of June with far-right candidate Espriella winning the presidency. Meanwhile, Peru's highly contested June 7 runoff between Fujimori and Sanchez, it is still experiencing an ongoing and nail-biting vote count.
Pero lo que sí no podemos permitir es que se convoque a una insurgencia. Pero lo que sí no podemos permitir es que se convoque.
With that, it is a wrap of Race to Power, and that is all we have in this segment. But before we let you go, a reminder to our viewers in India, you can watch all 2026 FIFA World Cup matches on Z5. Ronaldo and Portugal will play debutants Uzbekistan tonight. Make sure you tune in and catch all the action live. Thank you for watching.
The Israeli drone is above our heads all the time in Lebanon. Around 169 buildings have been totally reduced to rubble. Every time there's a warning, they just come to this public area where there are around 200 tents, and they reside for a while, and then they go back to their home. Some of the Lebanese people enjoying their time, celebrating, singing, dancing, and some others forcibly displaced. From the southern suburb of Beirut, I'm Radi Francis for WION The World is One.
WION Health Resort is unique, the only one of its kind. Experience the 4 paths of natural wellness: yoga, Ayurveda, acupuncture, and naturopathy. Each uniquely customized program improves the whole person to make every person whole. Come to WION Health Resort. Make your reservation at yowon.com.
In this rapidly changing world, is your health keeping pace? Best practices and breakthroughs busting the hype with real insights. The timeless power of yoga and ancient healing. Good food, good mood. Small steps, big impact. Your health matters. Only on WION World is One. Because nothing matters more.
Where darkness hides behind every corner. Where the truth is stranger than fiction. A show that dives deep into the stories which shock and mystify. Unsolved murders. Psychopaths who defy explanation. International war crimes. And millions swindled in financial fraud. The victims, the accused, and the sinister plot. Crime is your front row seat to darkness.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide, because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, World is One.
Get the latest updates. Breaking news. Credible, clear, continuous. Experts across aisles. Diverse voices, one platform. WION World is One.
Hello and welcome. You're watching WION World is One. My name is Mohammed Saleh and these are the headlines. The American President Donald Trump has said that Iran has fully and completely agreed to allow nuclear inspectors to return to the country and that the US naval forces would no longer blockade the Strait of Hormuz. Now, Russia on Tuesday has said that the United States is no longer an objective mediator in its efforts to broker an end to the Ukraine war, as it blasts Europe's plans to bolster the defense spending. The BRICS and National Security Advisors meeting in New Delhi, Prime Minister Modi says that under India's chairmanship this year, BRICS will work together to enhance economic resilience and also build a more inclusive world order. And Ukraine announces that President Volodymyr Zelensky will skip the Ukrainian Recovery Conference to be hosted in Poland later this week, amidst a spiraling diplomatic spat between the Allies and neighbors over World War II memory. And a Taliban delegation has arrived in Brussels for a rare closed-door talks with European Union officials, and this marks the very first time that the European Union is hosting a delegation from the Taliban since the group returned to power in Afghanistan in August 2021. And as France witnesses record-breaking heatwave, the authorities have now shut the Eiffel Tower and the Louvre Museum early. Indian cricketing star Rohit Sharma is presented with the Padma Shri Award by President Draupadi Murmu. Rohit captained Team India to the 2024 T20 World Cup title, which ended the Men in Blue's 11-year-long wait for an ICC World Trophy. A terrifying new battlefield doctrine is tearing through Ukraine's eastern shield as Moscow has unleashed a relentless wave of fire and shadow. The strategic fortress city of Konstantinivka is buckling under a dual assault that is blending aerial devastation with some lethal ground deception. Here's how Russia's combined strike formula is threatening to trap thousands of Ukrainian forces in the Donbas region. Take a look.
The battlefield is changing. A storm of drones and missiles from above. Small assault groups moving through gaps on the ground. Pressure is building around one of Ukraine's most important defensive positions. The focus is Konstantinivka. The city is a gateway to the crucial Donbas. If this fortress city falls, then there are fears that Russian forces could rapidly gain more grounds. Russian forces are increasing pressure. Ukrainian commanders are warning Moscow's units are using infiltration tactics to move closer and create pressure inside the defensive zone. The Russian approach is combining several layers: First, waves of drones and missiles designed to test and overwhelm Ukrainian air defenses. Then, ground units attempting to exploit weaknesses, move through contested areas and create confusion behind defensive lines. Moscow has continued large-scale strikes using missiles and drones, while Russian forces seek advances across parts of the eastern battlefield. The Russian Defense Ministry says its operations are targeting Ukrainian military positions. These attacks come at a time when Ukrainian counterattacks have taken the war deep into the Russian territory. Moscow says it shot down dozens of drones just days after a repeated Ukrainian strike on the city's oil refinery. Ukraine's military says it carried out a missile strike on a key electronics plant in Russia's Voronezh region that produces components for Iskander and KH-101 missile systems. Now Russia says the United States is no longer an objective mediator in Ukraine peace efforts and criticized Europe's plans to expand defense spending. The US-led talks remain stalled as President Trump shifts focus to West Asia after ordering strikes on Iran in late February 2026. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
Alright, let's now get you some breaking news coming in from Ukraine, where Ukraine has announced a major strike against Russia's military supply network in Crimea, claiming a key railway bridge over the North Crimean Canal has now been destroyed. Now, Kiev's Special Operations Forces said that the bridge near the village of Rozdolny no longer exists, describing it as the first such bridge that has been